Hey, it's Killen, and my god, you guys ask a lot of questions. Although these questions did come from everywhere, TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube. I'll be answering all of them right here, right now. These are questions about synths, software, music production, and music promotion as well, which will hopefully bring some value and insight to you wherever you are in your musical journey. In no particular order, could you very simply describe what you do and what you might want to know getting into electronic music? I'm predominantly a music producer who has transitioned into the content creation world, so I focus a lot on electronic instruments, music production. I use Logic Pro 10 for a DAW. A few years ago when I was a music producer, I would focus 100% on music production and nothing else, but now I have like several stems to what I do. So I compose music, I film it, and I basically just tell people how I do it every step of the way. Is the OP1 good for live or jamming? If you're looking for something that creates like a full-on track, the OP1 is great for that, but it's not so great for doing that live. I would say the OPZ is a better option in that case. Hi, what mic do you use? Okay, glad you asked. I use the Slate Digital ML1. This is my main mic that I use. And the main reason why I use it is because you could pair it with Slate Digital software and you could change the EQ of the mic post-production or while you're recording as well. I also have a Shure SM7B, but like, who doesn't? What are good drum pads you'd recommend for someone wanting to buy some? There's a bunch of different options here. It really depends on where you want to go with it. If you're using drumsticks, I would definitely recommend the SPD SX. If you're just getting into maybe finger drumming, I would go with something cheap and budget like the Beat Step. I think it's like $130 or something. More free resources? Okay. The first one that comes to mind right now is Fresh Air by Slate Digital. This is a software plugin that's free and it really focuses on the high end, like the crispiness of your audio. Splice is great. Any other resources you know of, especially retro soul funk stuff. Splice still remains my go-to just because of the price. It's really hard to compete with that. There are some independent sample makers that you guys might be interested in. The first one that comes to mind is The Count. He is absolutely killing Instagram right now and is giving away samples on the regular, and they're quality. I would go with him, and also LK, baby. I got some free samples too for you. How do you get your drums to sound more human and less robotic? Step one, I would record your drums, maybe take a shaker and just record it. If you don't have a mic, record it into your cell phone and then airdrop that into your session and use that. I've actually done that before and it works fine if you're going for that lo-fi sort of flavor. Another useful thing you could do is unquantize your drums. So if you have kick, snare, hi-hat, maybe kick down the middle, move the snare ahead of the beat and the hi-hat behind the beat so it sounds a little bit more sloppy. The third thing you could do is use a VHS or vinyl simulation plugin. There are some free ones out there. There's actually one from Isotope called Vinyl. It's free. I would suggest putting it onto the high frequency of your drums, so maybe the hi-hat or your perks, and it sort of just warps them a bit and makes them sound a bit more human. Question, how do you get the knobs and faders on a MIDI controller to operate with a synth plugin? Unfortunately, this sort of thing is different depending on the software and instruments that you're using, so I can't really give you a specific instrument on that. I will tell you that it's annoying, but you're gonna have to do research on the specific gear and software that you're using. My favorite synth VST is Arturia Analog Lab. What's yours? I love Arturia. I also love Analog Lab, and the new V Collection 8 is one of my go-tos right now. But I'm going through a phase where I'm exploring more stock plugins. And currently I would say that Alchemy, which is one of Logic's stock synths, is my go-to. It's one of my favorites right now. This next one's about Orba. I'm crazy to have one of these Orba, but I live in Brazil and it's crazy expensive to get anything like this here. Anyways, your opinion and demo, please. I've actually already done 3 videos on Orba, so here's a link to one of them, and also I'll leave the other ones in the description. I got a bunch of records I want to sample and make beats with. What's a good sampler or drum machine to start with? Once again, really depends on your budget and like how you like to work. If you have a big budget and you're looking for something with pads, I'm currently using the MPC One, which is great for that sort of thing. I also have an SP404. I will say that the SP404 is a little bit more clunky and the workflow isn't as intuitive as with MPC. And the third option, which is the cheapest budget, just use a sampler in pretty much any DAW. I use Logic's Quick Sampler and it's probably the fastest workflow, faster than the MPC and the SP404, that's for sure. It's a fraction of the price and it's also already incorporated into your DAW, so that's also pretty tempting. Wait! Who are some artists that you've worked with? I've been working pretty much 100% for myself for about the past 2 years. Before that, I made a living composing stock music, which is basically commercial music. I actually have like over 300 commercial tracks that are just living on like libraries all over the internet. I've also produced for a few artists as well, one of them being Bud Rice, Kayla Moran, and Danny Rebel in the KGB. Your Desert Island Synth. This question is from Miles Kundra, who is a solid synth guy and has released a lot of content on the Digitone, so go check him out. I think that over time the answer to this question will constantly be different. Recently I've been really into sampling, so the MPC one for me is just perfect, and so that's my answer to that. Okay, honest opinion on the microcosm, is it worth it? Yes, 1,000 times, yes, it's worth it. I've never heard anything like it, and it's the best ambient looper pedal that I've ever played with. I think Hologram really hit something with this one, and here's a little example of me playing it. Why doesn't the OP1 have quantize, cry face, emoji? It actually does have quantize option if you use the sequencers. So for example, if you wanted to program a beat, let's say using the endless sequencer, when you play back that beat, it's quantized. The tricky thing about the OP1 that everyone kind of complains about is that after you record that into your track, you're stuck with it. So in other words, once it's printed, you can't change it around afterwards. Liam, how do I make my drums sound not flat? Add extra layers to your drums and think in frequency. So if you have something covering the low end kick, something covering the low mids, and all the way up to the high end. The art of that approach is just being able to balance it and make your drums groove with all of that in mind. I love it. Where can I listen to more of your music? My music is everywhere. You can listen to it on all streaming platforms. If you'd rather listen on a free platform, you can check me out on SoundCloud or Bandcamp as well. You're using your Digitone. Is that your go-to drum synth? At this point, it's not. I've been working a lot with the Arturia Drum Brute Impact, as well as the Roland TR6S. I've been exploring this one a lot. It's really, really nice. How do you like your Digitone? I've been thinking about grabbing one as my first hardware synth. I want to move away from the computer. I think that anything from Electron is a really great option. It has a very unique workflow. The Digitone being one of those like do-it-all type boxes, it's very exclusive, I would say. Meaning that if you buy a Digitone, you're stepping into the world of Digitone, and that's what your tracks are going to sound like. You're not able to sample on it, and it's really easy to fall into that very FM synthy realm, which a lot of people are super into, but that's the sound. I love your OPC content, got mine back in November and still loving it. What is your favorite synth to pair with this? I recently did a video with the OPZ playing drums and the JU06A, which is a Roland synth, playing synth pads. That was a really fun combo, and I keep gravitating towards the OPZ for drum sounds just because they're so accessible and easy to program within a beat like that. This is another one from Miles Kundra. Great video, but dude, what happened to your hair? Yeah, I've gone through a few transformations in the past couple months. So I had really long hair about 3-4 months ago, and then I cut it short, but it was kind of still long, and now it's just really short. I don't know, I like it. Could you tell me more about how you're using TikTok? Are there any specific tags for music producers that you've had success with? For now, I've been only on YouTube and that's it. How to describe TikTok? I've had varied success with TikTok, and a lot of it relies on which videos have gone viral. Some of my videos have like 500,000 views on TikTok, which is crazy. So that's obviously considered viral. All of my preceding videos after that one tend to get a little bit more reach, but not that same amount. And then all of a sudden my views just plummet and then they come back up again. And so what I've realized is that the content that's gone viral goes in and out, it trends. So when it's at a high point, then the rest of my videos are getting views. And when it's at a low point, I'm not getting any views. In terms of hashtags, I usually put 5 of them, 2 being like giant hashtags, and 3 that are more geared towards the niche that is music production. I was looking for the JU06A on Amazon, but I only see the version with no keys. Are there different versions of it? This is the version that I have. So you can see this part here is actually detachable. This is the synth itself, and then you have the keys as well. So these are actually 2 separate items. The downfall of this obviously is that the keys are an extra expense. A microcosm tutorial in the future? Absolutely. I have a few videos in line currently, but Microcosm is definitely on that list in the near future. Great video as always. Thank you. Where did you get the Pocket Operator case? They're nowhere in stock. So these cases are actually directly from Teenage Engineering. They have a bunch of colors to choose from as well, so you could customize it a little bit. Bye mate, been loving your vids. Thank you. Not really getting where I want to be, looking at the MPC-1 or the MC707. I want to produce dance or trance music. Which would you recommend? Cheers, bud. I can't say much about the MC707 because I don't own one. As for the MPC-1, if you're into any sort of sampling, it's, I think, the way to go. It's a really intuitive machine and just a great way to make like beats. It works really well for drums. Quick workflow as well. If you want a bit more insight on that, I've left some MPC content in the description as well. My God, there's a lot of description links in this video. This is a question about Orba. Can you make beats without the app? You can. The Orba is a synth and it has its own sounds programmed into it. This is a question about the key step. Is it actually a keyboard with some built-in sounds, or is it just a MIDI device that you have to load sounds into? or used to control other devices. There are no sounds programmed into the keystep itself, but it makes for an awesome MIDI controller. Personally, my favorite part, which is unique to the keystep 37, is the chord function right here, where you're able to essentially choose the chord you want to program and arpeggiate it or like strum it in a certain way. Definitely worth checking out. Can you import any sound you want into the Arturia drum boot impact? You're not, and I think that's one major downfall of the instrument. I think a good analogy for the drum boot impact is like playing a game of chess. There's tons of sound possibilities, but it's within the rules, or in this case, the sounds of the drum boot impact. Besides hearing your beats, do you sell them as well? I don't make beats for like producers, let's say. As I mentioned earlier in the video though, I used to compose stock music, which is kind of similar to selling my beats. Ha 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 ha. How is your SP404 yellow? A lot of people have asked me that, and it's actually just like a cover or a sticker from this company called Brock Beats. Assuming that they're still around, it's very affordable and they have a bunch of color options to choose from as well. I love your channel, man. Thank you. Which interface are you using? I use the Apogee Ensemble, which is like the mothership of this whole studio. The preamps in the Apogee Ensemble sound great. I also have Neve preamps, which are just magical. What up, Liam? Love the vid. Just ordered a Tascam Portastudio 414 MK2. What kind of tapes do you recommend using? To be honest, I haven't done that much research on like the tapes that I'm using. I'm pretty sure these are high bias, which is the highest quality, I think. I got these from duplication.ca, so if you live in Canada or close to Canada, I highly recommend duplication.ca. How did you record your sound from OP1 in such a high quality when you're filming? Did you set your mic very close to the OP1? I used to record straight into my DAW, but this is a new tool that I use all the time. This is the Zoom H5, and I'm using it right now for my vocal audio. It has two inputs, so I could plug in whatever instrument I'm using as well. So let's say I'm recording the OP1, I'll plug it into the Zoom H5 along with maybe audio if I'm explaining how to use it. That way I'm getting the actual crisp quality from the instrument, which I bounce into my DAW afterwards and then edit in my video editing software. Do I have to always post on Instagram though for the algorithm to work? I feel like because there are so many different platforms out there now that Instagram has lost a bit of momentum. I think it's safe to say that TikTok has taken away most of the attention from Instagram, so there's just less engagement there overall, I think. And there's many different schools of thought on this. I'm of the school of thought that I constantly want to be on screen. I want to be in front of people's faces, so I'm posting like every day. I'm not one of those gurus that claims to have the answers about algorithms. I think that the more you post, the better you get at posting and the more you understand algorithms for yourself. Because yeah, it seems like the algorithm reacts and works differently for everybody. Everyone has a different experience. So my point is to get good at posting, and how do you do that? Post more. Do you use Repost Network on SoundCloud or the Exchange Network? I have no idea what that is, and I do not use it. This next question is about my cassette player. It's called a Tascam Portastudio. Is it worth buying a piece of gear for $300 to get such a subtle effect? Maybe. So there are many different ways to use the Tascam. You could just run your tracks through it and get that lo-fi sort of 90s effect to it. You're running it through tape, so that's a little bump in the low end as well, which is nice. There's also an option to use the pitch knob, which is just the best. There's nothing comparable to it. I put out a video recently also demonstrating how you could use the Tascam Portastudio as an instrument. So description. This next question is about finger drumming. It's so hard to use my right and left hand separately. Any tips? I would say start at very slow tempos, maybe even without a metronome to start with, and just start with like meat and potatoes, dumb, simple patterns. I would also suggest singing the patterns that you want to play. So boom, ta, boom, boom, ta, boom, ta, boom, boom, ta. Tap it out, you know what I mean? What's your favorite pocket operator? I find I take the PO20 with me more than the others. I would consider myself to be like an OG pocket operator guy. The PO12 for me is by far my favorite, just because the drum sounds are Hey Liam, nice stuff as always. When you bringing out an album, bruh? I've released a few singles recently, but releasing an album for me is a bit tough because I'm spending so much time focusing on releasing content and making music for my videos. So I'm currently trying to balance these two things out. I've also learned on social media that for me it works better to not announce anything and to come out with something as a surprise, or maybe announce it when I'm like very, very close to being finished and I know it's going to be released on this date, because otherwise it's a bit too wishy-washy to commit and then not deliver, and I know you guys just get annoyed by that. Hey, it's Liam Killen. What's up, my guy? Sade. This is another pocket operator question. Should KO be my first? The KO, to my knowledge, is the first PO that's able to sample. It's one of the easiest workflow sampling processes that I've ever seen. So for that, it's amazing. It's affordable. And yeah, I think it's a great starting point for a pocket operator. Okay, so a bass question. What kind of bass is that? Dan Electro? Let me pull out my bass. So this is a custom-made bass. It's modeled after a Silvertone bass. I'm not even sure what the model is, but it's super sexy. It's got flat wounds on it, and when I look at it, I just want to play it. I love this thing. Which platform do you find the most engaging? It really depends on the content that I post, and I guess the algorithm. To be honest, it's kind of unpredictable, so I'm just consistently posting to all of them. I would say there's more consistent and genuine engagement on Reddit and also on Facebook. Like, there's more questions being asked, whereas Instagram, it's more like you just get a lot of fire emojis. Since when do you have 3K followers? Do you have a preference, OP1 or OPZ? I also have a full-on video on this one. I'll link it in the description. My answer is it depends on what you're doing. The workflow of the OP1 is OP1 of a kind and very unconventional, but I see it more as like a piece of the puzzle, whereas the OPZ is more geared towards making a full track with the OPZ. Would you say that the pocket operators are a better value for money than the OP1? We all know that the OP1 is extremely expensive for what it is. Pocket operators are way more affordable, but obviously there's way less that you could do with them as well. I'm pretty sure you could buy every pocket operator that exists now for less expensive than the OP1. But does that mean it's worth it? I would say no. They're two completely different things. Another thing to keep in mind is like the marketing of all these companies. They're totally aware of what they're doing. They want you to buy all of their products. And the design of their instruments really reflects that. So like, for example, the Digitone versus the Digitac. The Digitac is able to sample, it has a different workflow. The Digitone is like a crazy FM sound design synth. Two completely separate things. I'm sure most of you are already aware of that, but it's just good to keep that in mind, like when you're thinking of buying synths from these companies, because they know how to get you. As always, thank you guys so much for your questions. I'd also just like to take a second to appreciate you, my wonderful audience. It's been close to 2 years now since I've been going hard on social media and YouTube. I say this genuinely, it's really been an amazing journey for me. I've never felt this fulfilled within my work, and I just really appreciate your guys' engagement. So yeah, if you have any more questions, keep them coming. I'll help you in any way that I possibly can. So, prayer hands. Thank you guys. If you're into this content, do the old smash-a-roo. As I mentioned, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate. Shoot them in the comments. I will get back to you. If you feel like you got some value from this content, maybe toss me a little bone. Like, share, subscribe, spread love, spread knowledge. You guys are stellar human beings, and I will see you very, very soon. Ciao, ciao.